In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a very easy modification that barely costs you any money to where your stock LED lights, the ones that are inside the fog light housing, stay on when your car is on or if the headlights are on. So anytime the ignition is on, you want the LEDs to stay on. Now, in a stock format, the LEDs do come on only when the light stock is set to auto. Now, for some of you, that's okay, not a big deal, but for someone like me who likes to stay in control of the lights, I like to, set that switch to actually off, or the parking light or the headlight per my choice, with the added benefit of having the LEDs on with the headlights on. So I'm going to show you how that's done. It costs very little, just a few supplies for some connectors and whatnot, and I will show you the process of how to do it and how all to build your little wire harness and where to extend it. You may have some better ideas, but this is the way I did it and I've been successful, and I wanted to share this guide with you. For this, all you're really going to need, and forgive me because I'm recording with my phone, my camera is actually not holding a charge very well, so I'm doing my best here. All you really need are these spade connectors. I guess they're called quick disconnects, but you can see that they are, I'll take one out of the box and show you. So you've got your male spade connectors. You're going to need a mini add a circuit deal. I already have it installed on the car, so that's why I don't have it in the box. Again, I didn't anticipate that the phone or the camera is going to give me trouble, so that's why I kind of got a little bit of a head start. And you're going to need the female disconnects to go along with the male counterpart, so that you can bridge the connection when you put your wires together. The loom of wire I have here is 14 gauge. Honestly, 16 gauge is perfectly fine. This is a fairly low amperage setup, and I believe when I looked up on a chart, the 16 gauge maxes out at, I think, 15 or 20 amps safely. This circuit's only 10 amps max, so you're well within tolerance. Good set of crimpers go a long way. I know that helps. And so let me take these. Let me take one of these out of the box, and I'll show you. Here's an example of the male spade connector. Sorry, it doesn't focus very well. And then here is your female connector, which they will plug in together. Sometimes you can buy these where they have the male-female in the pack, so they're paired up. That would be best, of course. Okay, and let's go ahead and get started. I forgot to mention also another thing that you're going to want to get is this wire conduit that's heat resistant, flame retardant. It's going to look exactly like this. You all must have seen this before. And I got the 5-foot ream or loop, and this was very helpful because even at the end of the 5 feet I managed to cut 2 small pieces off, and I'll get to that step in a moment, and I'll explain what you're going to need those for. So your first step, go ahead and measure about 10-inch segments of your wire, of your loom wire here. You're going to want 4 of these, so cut 4 10-inch long pieces. On each end, go ahead and put 1 female and 1 male spade. Crimp them down very well, make sure that they're tight. So you're going to want 4 of these. So make 4 of these. And once you have them, keep them on the side, and we're going to go on to the next step. Next step, you want to go over to the passenger side junction box. Pop it open. And again, this is where I got a little bit ahead of the video, so you'll have to forgive me. And this is where you take your add a circuit. This is what the how the circuit looks like here. They're going to be blank initially. What you're going to do is you're going to locate the fuse for sensor 2. According to the dialog or the diagram, is sensor 2 is the 15 amp. So you're going to use your fuse puller, pull the fuse out of sensor 2, and on the out of circuit you will put the original fuse on the one closest. Sorry, I had a low battery message on my phone. You're going to put it on the line that's closest to the actual teeth, and so that's your original circuit. Go ahead and add a 5 amp fuse on the new circuit that you're about to build, which it comes pre-wired like this with a little, there we go. It comes like this as a little segment with this blue section. This green wire is going to be my wire. So once you have this connected here, what we're going to do is take a loom of wire and go ahead and measure. I measured about 6 feet just to be a little bit on the safe side so it can go across the engine bay. And we're going to want to end up in that second junction box on the driver's side. Now, if you choose to route it a different way, that's perfectly fine. Maybe some of you want to route it through to the front or some other way, but this is what I did. So this is going to be your signal wire. This is what's going to trip the relay to flip on your LEDs. This is a switched fuse, or rather circuit. So whenever you have your ignition on, it will come on. When you turn your ignition off, it will turn off, and that will click your relay off. Once you have went ahead and set up your, or you crimp down on your add a circuit, go ahead and install it into the slot. A little hard time because I'm working one-handed. It'll slide right down, so you'll see that it's a very nice fit. And then the this protective conduit wiring, we'll get to that in a minute. Like I said, I'm just a little bit ahead of myself here in the video. Once you bring your long 6-foot wire over, let me get better lighting here. You can see I'm gonna strap it to the strut bar here. You bring your wire all the way along. Go ahead and add a female connector on this end. And while you're at it, as a matter of fact, I forgot to mention that go ahead and make another, I'd say 5 or 6 inches would be plenty for the ground wire. If you want to go ahead and make it 10, go ahead and make it 10. I'm using, as you can see, this grounded segment bolts for whatever this wire harness is, and I have a spade connector that looks like an old UHF connector where it has the 2 prongs like this, and so they slide right underneath the bolt, and so that's crimped down to a wire. Ignore this, this is something you don't need to worry about that. And go ahead and add a female spade connector here so that you can install the wire segment. After that, what we're going to do next is we're going to pull this relay here, and we're going to manually add our circuit to it. And with a pair of small needle nose, we can just pull this straight out. And this, go ahead and just set it in there. This is going to be our relay. Now our relay is as documented here. If you'd like to, let me get better light for you guys. If you'd like to pause it here, you can, just to study this circuit diagram. What we're going to be focused on is this corner right here. This is the relay right here. So if we have the relay in this orientation, we're going to use, or we're going to say the right pin is the ground, the left pin up here is the signal. This is going to be the device pin in the middle. And the very bottom is the constant 12 volt, or the hot point, as you should say, or the hot line. So it's in this orientation here. Okay, now next step is let's go ahead and start making our wire segment connections to this relay. You can start, of course, with two hands. This is a lot easier. So go ahead and insert these into the relay. Okay, so they're going to, just to kind of give you a visual here. And my other two segments, as a matter of fact, again, this is a little bit ahead of myself, but I want to go ahead and show you guys, is that I have drilled a hole. Let me orient this a little bit better. So the lid is normally like this. And so you can see on the back of it, on the back top corner, I've drilled a hole and ran these spades through it. Just make the hole large enough to where they will fit. And by the way, whoever says that recording on an iPhone is a good thing, they're lying. This is absolutely terrible, and I apologize for that. But I really wanted to put this video out for you guys to help you out, and even though I don't have a decent camera at the moment. Okay, so here are your four connectors, and so I have my green one as a ground, and the ground, again, we said was going to be the top right. So go ahead and that in. This is going to be our signal. Had it. Okay. So right now we have our harness connected to our relay. As such. One of the drawbacks of filming with a phone is you get interrupted with phone calls from salespeople. Anyhow, as I was saying, is now we have the harness connected to our relay. You'll notice that we have our two spade connectors out here, and we're going to have two spade connectors right here that go to this relay. So let's first start off with the bottom two. Sorry, gotta find my orientation here. The bottom two that are use red splices. Go ahead and match them up with the actual port. So you'll match up that the middle goes to the middle and the bottom goes to the bottom. So go ahead and do that. This one is going to be the top. I'm sorry, I just can't get a good light for you guys. We'll slide right in there. And we want to make sure the bottom goes to the bottom. As such. Okay, so we have those two nice and snug. Feel them by wiggling them. They slide right in. They don't have any trouble going in whatsoever. Once you've drilled your hole and run your other two spades through the top hole right here. Go ahead and make your connections as such. Take the ground one, which I have as a green wire. We'll run it to the green spade here. Okay, so you make the connection. And last, certainly not least, your signal wire, the 6-foot long wire here. Go ahead and make the connection to that. Okay, now you have it all wired up. At this point you can go ahead and run your thermal tubing. I forgot what this thing is called. Go ahead and run your tubing and just put some twist ties just to kind of hold it in place, just to make it a little bit neat. And this is where the small segment ones come in. So go ahead and grab these. And again, I'm sure there's going to be a better way to do this, but I feel confident is to install one on this segment just to cover up this, and the other on that segment. So I'll go ahead and do that with 2 hands. Your setup at this point should look something like this, where these are covering those 2 spade connectors. And the reason you want these spade connectors here that go right before the hole is simply because if you need to service this junction box for whatever reason, you need to get this top out of the way, you can make your quick disconnects here and take the cover somewhere else. Of course, when you disconnect off of your relay, just remember where they go. Now, again, ignore this blue bypass type. You're not going to have that. Just don't worry about that. And so at this point, we're all wired up. And of course, with one hand, this is a little bit difficult, and I'm still going to zip tie this and make this a little nice. But as you can see, this is a pretty good proof of concept, pretty clean installation corner right here. And let me go ahead and show you the results, what happens. So going, boy, iPhone is just terrible in low light. So all I'm gonna do, as you can see, or actually as you can't see, let me go ahead and turn the flashlight here on. It's a little bit better. Find you here. Okay, so as you can see, my stock is set to DRL off. All I'm going to do is turn the ignition on. And you can see I haven't touched the DRL stock, but we have light in the front. And voila, we have stock DRLs. Now the added benefit is when I turn on the headlights, with or without the fog lights, you can see that they stay on. I'll go ahead and turn off the fogs to show you how that looks like. Isn't that something? So there you have it. You could drive at night, drive in the day, does not matter. Your LEDs will always be on, and when you turn the ignition off, they will simply cut off. I will go ahead and turn the lights off. You can still see the light over there. I'm going to turn the ignition off, and you will see them cut off. There you go, and they power off. So that pretty much concludes the installation. I'll give you one last kind of overview shot here to see, angle the light a little bit. So, you know, at that point you can get some zip ties. I'm gonna clean this up, make this look a little bit nicer, and I have the routing here to where this will be tucked in around where you'll see this loom of stock cables. Just kind of run them alongside here. You don't have to zip tie or anything here because the lid has a little flap and it will nicely push them in. So that pretty much concludes the installation. It's just, you know, maybe $10–15 worth of supplies and cables to wire and make your LEDs come to life and stay on all the time, and no parts really to change or splice or anything like that. All you're doing is tapping into whatever you already have. Very safe, and it's very modular, so you can completely take this off at any point in time. Again, this is for 2013 and up Genesis Coupe with the stock LED with fog light setup. And of course, if you have any questions, just go ahead and leave me a comment below. Thank you very much. Hope this helps.